Okay, everyone, I think we'll get started, and then if anyone joins, they'll just add on afterwards. I'm just going to record this just in case you want access to the webinar afterwards, so we can send it out to you. But first of all, I'm just going to introduce you to myself and David, who will be hosting you today. So I'm Annie Spencer, so Head of Finova Payment and Mortgage Services, but also Business Development Director within Finova. And just introduce you to David.
Thanks, Mel. David Bennett. I'm the Commercial Director within the Finova Group.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you all for attending. We want to split this webinar on for you because we've seen a big kind of uptake in conversations in how lenders are managing relationships with their intermediary customers. And throughout many conversations, there's been that gap or kind of understanding of, well, how do we actually maximize that with our customers? So myself and David will take you through kind of what we've been seeing in the market, but also how we can help you on this. So David, do you want to give a bit of an introduction?
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at our a couple of products that we have available within the product suites, namely the Intermediary Manager product, which can help you with your managing your clients from that initial onboarding throughout the customer life cycle. So through business development, through marketing, obviously any risk channels as well, and having that single point of truth across your organisation. We'll then be looking at the broker ID proposition, which Mel will provide an overview of, on how you can get enriched data from a single source, all the information you require on your broker clients.
Perfect. I think, we can make this as interactive as you want to. You can ask questions, you can come off mute, you can ask questions. We've got a Q&A at the bottom as well, so feel free to use the Q&A if you want to. And say if you've got any questions throughout, please feel free to ask as well. I think the first thing we'll do, though, is let's just take you through who Finova are, especially if you don't understand kind of what we do in the market or you haven't heard about our rebrands. I'm just going to take you through a couple of minutes of that, and then we'll go straight into how we can start managing our intermediaries more effectively. So Finova, so we're a tech company within the mortgage market, and we focus on the mortgages, lending and saving products, so working with both lenders and brokers. So next slide, David. So within our group, you'll see that we've got multiple brands that you may be aware of in the market, and the easiest way to explain kind of what we do is we offer services across the mortgage market, starting with our core banking platform. So we offer mortgages and savings, the end-to-end running of your business, and that's through your lender systems, and the brands that you probably know in the market there is your DPR and your BEP software. Our second pillar is our broker platform, and this is where our brokers will use our technology to run their businesses all the way through from managing their customers, but also interacting with their clients directly online. And the brands that you'll know in the market is eKeeper and Borrow. And then we have Finova Connect, which is how we connect the industry together. So using our mortgage club, so previously known as MCI Mortgage Club, but we also have something called Broker ID, where we manage, so we're able to understand more about our brokers, insights, so understanding about them being authorised on the FCA register, but also being able to understand more about them with regards to their online presence, but also whether they more detail about the company's house. So we'll talk about that in more detail later. But you can see that we actually offer solutions across the market, which is really key for us because we need to understand different areas of the market to see how we all connect together. So across our platforms, just to give you an idea of who we work with, we've got over 60 lenders that use our core banking platform. So that's our lending and saving solutions. We have over 3,000 brokers that use our CRM platforms. We have 200 institutes which use our Connect solutions, so understanding more about their businesses, and then how much actually goes through our platforms. We have over 75 billion that's originated, but also under management over 27.5 billion under management through our servicing platform as well. So you can see that we want to be that trusted partner in the industry across the mortgage and savings world. Next slide. just a list of some of our clients. So as I say, we have over 60 lenders that use our platforms. I think that's really key to knowing that we understand the market. And when we talk about brokers as well, we talked about we have over 3,000 brokers. So it's just about how we're speaking to each of you individually, but also how we can utilise our experience to build solutions for the future. So I get asked on a daily basis how this all works together. So it's just a really a slide for you guys to have a look at, to think about how we can connect everybody together. And what we have here is you can see from a lender world, and this is where we see how the broker management piece comes in, which we want to talk to you about today. And then we're using our experiences from the broker world, but also from the consumer world as well.
And Mel, just to say, Andrew just put a question in terms of how many building societies are using the core platform?
Yep, so we have 10 building societies that are currently using the platform today. Okay.
Next slide.
Yep.
Okay, so just coming on to the intermediary manager product, I guess some of the challenges that we hear within the marketplace across the lender community, certainly from my interactions with those lenders, are a lot of lenders are actually looking for that single point of truth around the broker community. Obviously, they have a lot of interactions with brokers across the business, in the onboarding team, business development teams, support teams, marketing teams, etc. A lot of times they're using different systems as well to record that information. So one department isn't necessarily aware of what the other department's interaction has been with that broker, potentially extra information which could have been useful to their conversations. So again, I guess the question that we're asking here is, within your organisation, do you struggle to pull together that single point of truth about your broker community? When it comes to onboarding brokers, as we've just mentioned, it's obviously quite a lengthy process. Lots of due diligence checks are completed. And what we're finding is a lot of those communications, a lot of those checks are done manually, a lot of communications in terms of sending out welcome packs, initial communications are also done manually as well. So I guess the next question is, do you have these checkpoints in place to ensure that all your checks are being completed before you're actually doing business with your broker clients? And also, are there controls in place to ensure consistency amongst the staff as well, for those that are completing the checks, to ensure all of them are doing it to a suitable standard, and storing it in that single place. Moving on to targeted activity, another challenge that we're hearing from a number of lenders. It's obviously important, as we were just talking with Emma before we actually commenced the webinar. Obviously, business development marketing activity is very expensive, so you want to ensure that you're actually hitting the right brokers. So again, in order to do that, in order to segment your user base, and obviously ensure you're targeting the right individuals, it's important that you've got all that information to hand, to ensure that, as we've said, that you are targeting your most important clients. And then contingency, again, it's just another problem that we're finding. Certainly for business development managers, if one was to leave or one was to be off sick, often a lot of business development managers will keep that very rich information they have on their broker clients, on the relationships they hold, to themselves. They'll maybe hold it within Outlook, within emails, possibly in a paper notepad. So I guess the question is, within your organisation, what happens when key staff are on holiday or off sick? Do you have those arrangements in place to ensure that their key activities can be handed over to somebody else? Or indeed, if the BDM was to leave that organisation, does all that important information leave with them? Or do you have the processes and systems in place to be able to ensure a handover to the new staff so they can get quickly up to speed, and get a history of that interaction with previous interactions with the broker community? So that's a little bit about some of the challenges we're going to look to help with today, with our intermediary manager product and our broker ID products. So the intermediary manager product, again, this is our CRM solution. Ideally, this will be your system that will help you manage your clients from the initial interaction with them. So in terms of onboarding them, when they are registering to do business with you, so completing those all important checks, getting information from the likes of the broker ID solution, in terms of verifying those brokers. And then the system is designed to, again, manage the relationships throughout the again, throughout the life cycle of your relationship with that client. So again, business development activity, marketing activity, risk management, etc. as well. So very, very important tasks. And this system is designed to cover the whole hierarchy of the distribution space. So including not just the brokers, but the firms, and obviously then the networks and potentially mortgage customers those firms to belong to as well. So right across the, as I said, the whole community. And what we've done, as you'll see later on, is we've been able to overlay that with business intelligence as well, which really again brings that information to life and helps with that segmentation exercise to again ensure that you're targeting the right relationships with the right brokers. Just going to hand over to Mel just to talk a little bit more about the broker ID proposition.
Yeah, so David just mentioned about broker ID, how intermediary manager can be complemented by using broker ID as well. This is where you're gathering data from different data sources and being able to utilize the data to understand more in depth about that broker firm. So whether you're doing this before you actually start talking to a broker firm because you want to understand more about their business, or whether you're doing any due diligence on them as part of your onboarding, or even on an annual or a risk basis. So this is where broker ID will gather data from the FCA database. So using the FCA register and gathering that information that that firm is actually authorised, who the controllers of the business are. We then can go more granular into the FCA individual persons data. So understanding more about how many brokers are authorised to do mortgages or equity release, understanding which exam board they're part of. So really going more granular into the brokers themselves within those firms. Then we have companies' house data. So a lot of lenders will check that the firms are on companies' house and understanding more about their businesses when it comes to their account side of things. So are their accounts up to date? Some lenders will actually go into the accounts and have a look at them, and it's entirely up to you kind of what your process is, but it's giving you instant access to that data rather than going onto the website to go and have a look at it. We then have all sorts of links to social media, so their LinkedIn profiles, Twitter profiles, you've also got Facebook on there, you've got their email addresses, you've got their websites. It's having that understanding of their online presence so you can do more investigation work into their firms to understand them better. And then we've got a strong roadmap of different types of data that we can pull into, and I've just named a couple there that we spoke to lenders recently about. So ICO data, and then also know your business checks through a company like Credit Safe, so understanding if there's any CCJs and also what their turnover's like. So really getting a good picture in the one location and one place. David?
We're going to cover that now in a second.
Yeah, and also I think I mentioned this just slightly, is really who needs to use this data. I don't think there's kind of one department. It's really the whole business can start utilising this data, whether it's via intermediary manager or via broker ID or a combination of both. So we find that being able to have all this single truth of data in one place can really help simplify your process. And that really stretches from onboarding through to risk compliance. Then you've got your marketing, your new business. Everybody would need to understand their firms at some sort of level during that life cycle of that broker dealing with you as a lender. And then from an IT perspective, it's about, well, actually, we can then start utilising APIs to automate a lot of this process within your business. But don't just focus on the IT piece. It is really about how you utilise this by logging into a system, and you can do this within all your individual departments. And you'll see that we've got some brands that are currently using both platforms today, whether it's intermediary manager or broker ID. And we have over 20 odd lenders across the both platforms.
Thank you. Was there any questions? I can't see anything in the Q&A before we jump into a demonstration. Any questions? Again, feel free to shout out questions as we go along. You don't need to wait until the end. But I can't see any questions or can't hear any questions, so I'm just going to try and seamlessly swap between the presentation and the demonstration now. So Mel, can you see the screen okay? Can you see the broker registration page?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to start today's demonstration with again a quick look at the intermediary managed products, and again this just to repeat, this is again to help you manage the relationship from that initial onboarding of a broker right through till again that relationship potentially comes to an end. So in terms of that first step, I guess there could be a variety. Many of you will be provided with broker portals to allow brokers to register to do business with you. So that's what we're going to show as a quick example of a broker registering to do business as a way to start the journey. But equally, again, there's a variety of different ways that this information could be fed into the system. Obviously, there is the direct feed from the origination platform. There could be an email in terms of if you take email for new registration. It could be that you've got I guess you're running an event and you're capturing details on an iPad. So however you're capturing the details electronically, they can all be fed into the system because we have a full open API structure. So any data that's collected electronically, as we'll show you now, can be fed into the system to start the journey. So now here's I guess the first look at I guess where broker ID comes into the equation, where we can enter the FCA number of a firm, and again allow us to find the details of that particular firm. So it's obviously located, that FCA number is for broker associates, which are located in the Manchester area as well. So we're just going to pop some details in. So for today, we're going to use Melanie as the actually let's use someone else a second. Who? Sorry, Mel. What other names do we have on the call?
Emma. Yeah, Emma Parker. Yeah.
Okay, so again, very similar to most intermediary portals, you'll be entering some details about the firm, entering some details about yourself. So I'm just going to pop the name, the number, and a little message here as well. Just click on the register button now. So that would, again, what we've highlighted there is someone going onto your traditional intermediary portal, and as I said, registering to do business with you. So what happens next? So again, how does Intermediary Manager help with that? So here's the Intermediary Manager dashboard. So this is the first page that all users within the organization, and as Mel has pointed out, that could be the onboarding team, that could be IT team, marketing team, business development management team. And in terms of users and teams, it's got a full hierarchy built into the user permissions. So however your organization is structured, then that can be reflected in how the user accounts are actually connected as well. So I've been set up on a very simple team manager with a team. And what that means, again, if you go right to the top of the hierarchy, then potentially certain individuals can see the activity of every single individual within your business as well. So what are some of the, again, the benefits of this product and using this to manage the relationship? Well, first of all, it's notifications. So again, in many organizations, the notification of a new registration could come into a team. It could come into a mailbox for an onboarding team to start to conduct their checks. But again, with this system, it ensures that the right person is notified. And that, in fact, could be multiple people. So that could actually be notifying the business development manager that a new firm is registered so that they can make a welcome call. And then equally also notifying the support staff so that they can actually start to conduct their due diligence checks, again, potentially using the broker ID service to enhance the data that they capture. Communication, again, it could be activity. So if you really want to be able to jump straight onto the phone the minute that a broker starts to say complete a decision in principle or submit an application, so you can make contact to see if they need any help with that. Again, that's another example of a notification that you could receive within here. And if you're on a team manager basis or indeed a director or a senior management, then again, potentially you could see all notifications coming in as well. And that certainly helps with that contingency that we talked about earlier on, to make sure that all notifications are acted upon. And the system has a huge amount of automation built in and protection to ensure that no activities aren't completed as well. So for example, you could have a rule in place to say that if that notification isn't picked up by a certain member of staff within a certain period of time, then it's automatically reallocated to somebody else within the team. Again, just to make sure that, again, brokers are getting the service that you wish to provide to them. So what are some of the other things, again, you've got within the system? You've also got a diary now. We call it a diary. It is effectively your to-do. So it's everything, again, why it's on the homepage, everything that you potentially need to do that day. Now, I guess the benefit of the diary system, it's fully compatible, and you can integrate it with your email platform of choice. So if you're using Office 365, Outlook, Gmail, and that will synchronize with your emails and also your calendar program as well. But what the diary system is designed to do is provide you with information on everything you need to do that day. Those types of activities are categorized. So if you've got key individuals that do certain tasks, then again, by choosing the category, they can look at the types of diary events or to-do events they've got that day for that particular task type. They can then prioritize them as well. So if they want to work their high priority tasks, they can work by priority. And of course, like with most calendars, you can work by day, by week, by month view, or indeed, if you prefer it, by a simple to-do list as well, where you'll see them, the to-do actions from oldest to newest in chronological order. So if I'm working by day view, in terms of the types of activity, again, not only will it be categorized, but either I could put a diary note in for myself, something I want to do on that day. The system may suggest something I need to do on that day as part of the processes that you build into the system. Or indeed, one of your colleagues may be putting a to-do in the diary for you on that given day. But this system, again, will tell you what is due at any point, as said, during that day, or potentially during that week or during the month. So if we have a look at the registration we just completed there on the 10th of May. Now, again, I'm just going to pop into that particular case, because what this will highlight to you, again, is just a couple of things. So Mel talked about early on about the ICO and I guess ensuring you remain GDPR compliant. So those GDPR controls will flow throughout our solutions as well, particularly in this particular product, where you'll see that we didn't actually capture any consent to contact Emma personally. So you can see at the moment that the telephone number and the ability to text Emma is showing as red. So she's giving you that warning that at this stage we don't actually have consent. So we're not actually the ICO. So we're not going to stop you texting any of your customers or emailing them, but you just get those warnings throughout the system just to make sure you stay GDPR compliant. Now, the other thing as well, just picking up on the point that I mentioned about key events notifying key staff, you'll see that Burkwood Associates were actually in the Manchester area. So in actual fact, it's automatically allocated rolling to the account. And that's because within the system, you can hold the postcode area for each of the BVMs as well. So again, that just means that if, as we've just seen here, a firm registers in the Manchester area, which is an area that in this case here Rowley looks after, he will automatically be notified of that new registration. So it will be him that will receive the notification on his dashboard and any activities that he needs to complete, maybe creating a welcome call as well. So let me just jump to come back to the home page and probably move on to one of the most important parts of the system, which is the business summary, because it's within here that this controls, again, your end-to-end customer life cycle from that initial point of onboarding or from registration through to the point that the firm will become active, possibly then made inactive, or at some point they may decide not to proceed. But this particular workflow, which again powers the whole system, is completely configurable to your exact processes. So whatever steps that you take, for example, in the onboarding process, we do certainly suggest that it's as granular as possible, because the more granular you make your processes of onboarding, so offboarding, and indeed in live, the more automation that you can benefit from the system. So the key points to, I guess, to take away from the I guess the workflow engine is that every one of your customers will sit at one stage or another. Okay, you can't be in multiple stages. They're somewhere within your customer life cycle. So if we have a look on the left-hand side, you can see that we've got a number of firms that are in the new registration phase. And what we can build in, as I said, is a lot of automation to take away a lot of tasks that are probably done manually in terms of completing checks, communicating with a broker. And that initial communication could be a thank you for registering text. It could be a welcome pack being sent out. It could be as I said, the BDM making a welcome call. But what you can do off of each of these stages is actually configure that activity to make sure that none of those activities are actually missed. And you can build SLAs around them and reporting as well. So you can see if there's any blockages in any part of the process. So if we have a look at this example workflow, this example onboarding check, then in this particular lender, the first step on your registration is within 24 hours for that welcome pack to be sent out. And that's the sort of thing, as I said, that you would just hold a copy of that within the system, and that can then just be automatically sent out to that firm without someone having to manually do that and worry if it's been done or not. Then in terms of checks, we'll come back to checks a little bit later on, but that's normally the next step of the process. That's where Broker ID adds a huge amount of value to this particular product, in able to getting all that key information from a single source and having it then stored on the profile of that particular brokerage. As we move to the right, again, it gets to the point where you may send out acceptance terms. Again, that could automatically happen at the applicable time, because what the system has also got within it is not just automation. For example, that the to-do task being created for the BDM, or that welcome pack being sent out automatically. You can also have controls in place as well to ensure that that particular firm cannot move too far through your customer life cycle until certain activities are completed. And that could be, as I said, do not make them live until they've had the welcome call, until they've received the welcome pack, until certain compliance or due diligence checks have been completed. Because again, the last thing you want to do is put a brokerage live to do business with you, having not completed all the necessary checks. So those controls are available, as I said, at each step of the process. So having worked through the onboarding stages, you'll notice here as well, there's SLAs as well. So if any firm gets stuck at any particular stage or is there too long, then it allows, again, management to see whether potentially any parts of the process are going wrong. But the key word, just to repeat from earlier on, is having a system orchestrating the key steps of your onboarding processes and your business development processes. It just gives you not just automation, but it gives you that consistency, and it ensures that you can then hit those service standards that you're looking to provide to your intermediary clients. So if we just move to the right, as you can see, these are the steps of the onboarding process. And at that point, we will either defer that potentially for a manual decision. It could be declined, hence why some firms would then sit and remain at the decline stage or potentially not proceeding stage. But all being well, those onboarding steps will be completed, again, with the benefit of this system, very seamlessly, efficiently, and also in an automated fashion, to the point that you're ready to do business with that brokerage. So again, where does the workflow help with that? Well, in this particular case, we've got, I guess, a very standard sort of gold, silver, bronze segmentation of our client bank. So for the firms, if I just click on here, that are sitting at the active monthly visits phase, you can see I've got my example firm here, DB Financial, Open Work, for example, as well. We've categorized those as a gold client. So very similar to the onboarding stages, we can hang a lot of automation off of each of the different stages. And it can be different automation for those different group of brokers as well. So because these are our gold clients, then again, we may want to see them every month, which means that an automatic activity will be created each month to go and see those firms. So on that homepage that we started on, when the BDM logs in the morning, on that applicable date, they will see a to-do to go and visit that particular client, because it's been, as I said, it's been activated from the fact that they sit at this particular stage. Or a lot of our existing lenders that have taken this product affectionately call them as buckets of firms. Whereas on the next, I guess, stage of firms, then it's 3 monthly visits. So that could be the silver clients that maybe just want to visit every quarter, down to potentially the bronze clients, which maybe get a visit every 6 months. It could be a newsletter that you want to schedule to go out each stage. So you can have lots of different automation and actions and different actions for the different groups of brokers based on how you segment them. It could be size of organization. It could be the amount of business that you actually do with that firm as well. Another great example, which some of our lender clients use this for, is using this as a great diary reminder to then complete those 12-month annual reviews, possibly further due diligence checks to do for that intermediary as well. So hopefully that explains about some of the automation, which, as I said, orchestrates a lot of the activities. So everybody in the onboarding team, everybody in the marketing teams, everybody in the business development teams, based on, again, how this has been configured, effectively, the system tells them what they need to do each day. It's almost they don't even have to think. They've also got the ability, again, to put their own activities in addition to the automated ones, or indeed some of their colleagues may put some extra tasks in there. But it's this workflow, I said, this orchestration of your client bank that is really, really, really powerful. What I want to do now is move into a profile, because I talked earlier on about how this system allows you to have everything about your clients within one place. So you've really got that single point of truth. So you know every interaction that you've had with that brokerage. Now, if I go to the business intelligence area, this is again another powerful part of the system, and really where it comes away from just being a standard CRM in terms of capturing information and using that information. Because I think once you've added in, again, details on the activity of each firm, then the information and how you use it becomes, again, even more powerful. So for us, the difference between, I guess, management information and business intelligence is management information is traditionally quite flat activity reporting, often in Excel, whereas business intelligence, again, gives you that graphical insight into activities. You can see instant representation of any trends, any activity, any patterns that are happening, who are your bigger performers. So what we're looking at here is just some core metrics. Now, again, most of our lenders will feed this in from either from a data warehouse or directly from their origination platform. But what this is actually doing is actually giving us information, as I said, either overnight, real time, on the activity of each of our intermediaries. Now we take that information, there's actually three layers, I guess, to the distribution hierarchy within the system. So tier 3, which is how we take the data, is the individual broker, the individual business writer. So what activity are they completing? How many decisions and principles, how many applications, how many of those completing, etc., is the individual broker doing? Now, within the system, that broker will belong to a firm. So we'll have a lot of information on that firm, and then we'll also have the information on any parent records as well. So if that firm belongs to a network, or if that firm belongs to a mortgage club or a master agency of sorts, then that's where we will aggregate the records together. And again, the aggregation becomes very, very important when it comes to looking at business activity. So what we're looking at here is activity at the highest level of the hierarchy. This is at network level, okay? So this is where we're looking at what is the collective amount of activity for all the firms within Openwork, for example, or within Intrinsics, within Quilter or Sesame. So we're seeing, again, over a certain time period, it could be the last 30 days, we could change to year to date. Everybody loves a moving graph. We are looking at the collective amount of activity for, as I said, that organization as a whole. What we can also look at as well, if it's not just counts, we can look at different amounts. So what is our lending volumes, again, collectively within open work, within year to date or the last 30 days. And also what's the product performance been as well. So again, that's a really interesting dynamic to look at in terms of which of my products are proving more successful than others at this stage. But where, again, that information becomes very, very handy is having seen how the networks are actually performing. When we actually come into the system now, this is where I'll start to show you a record. This is where you capture all the information on your intermediary clients. And the beauty of this system is that all the information you capture is not just searchable. So when you want to search for a particular type of criteria, or somebody that meets that criteria, so firms within a certain postcode, every single bit of information, hard facts, soft facts, is then searchable within the reporting suite. And it's also can be used as a merge field as well. So that then allows you to have the concept of one-click document production and really personalized communications. So here we have a network record. So this is where we're capturing everything about the parent in this case, which is OpenWork. But what you'll see on the right-hand side is within the network record is details now of the next level down. So this is level 2 of the hierarchy. So this is how each of those firms within OpenWork are performing. Okay, so you can see here, if we want to jump into one of those firms, and this allows me to show you a record that's been fully completed. It allows you to see how much information you can really capture, not just the individuals, but the firm as well. So within DB Financial, okay, you can see we've got a record for David, who's the, in this case, the principal. We've got a record for Alan, who's one of the supervisors. So it's not just like a traditional origination platform would have, not just information on the actual business writers. You can actually have information on all users within the firm. And I'll hand over to Mal in a second just to, again, explain how that information can, again, be sourced from the broker ID service. If we move our way down onto the profile, so this is that single point of truth that we're referencing. Okay, we know who the field-based BDM is. We know who the telephone BDM is. We know who the regional manager is as well. So when it comes to, if that was to change, then it allows us to bulk reallocate all the firms that Rody was looking after to the new BDM. Of course, what that new BDM will have access to then is all that important information. So what do we mean by important information? Well, if you look on the right-hand side, we've got the individual performance now, all the brokers within that firm as well. So again, you can use different time periods. You can look at amounts. Again, what the product performance is by that firm in particular. On the left-hand side, again, we know the introducer source, how they were introduced to you, how they came to do business with you, the date they registered, the date they onboarded. Again, those key dates can be used to set reminders to recheck that information or complete further checks. And then again, this is where the tasks that are completed here are mainly going to be probably to do with your onboarding checks and the various different checks that you need to complete. So again, you could source this information manually, but again, you're going to be capturing, again, doing checks on disqualified directors. You want to be doing checks on controlled persons, on the FCA register, on company's house, etc. So again, if you were to utilize both products, that information could seamlessly feed into here to save you having to, again, manually check those databases. Again, what are the permissions of this particular firm? What is the status of the relationship with that firm? What's the relationship like with the administrator? Some of the more softer facts that, again, is going to be very important to the business development managers and the marketing teams. So Mel, would this be a good point just to hand over just to show you a quick look at the broker ID service, if you were to use it standalone rather than feeding it automatically?
Yeah, exactly. Say the broker ID service that we have, as David just said, it can either be standalone or you can utilize some of the areas to bring into intermediary manager or actually into systems that you have internally yourselves. So what you'll see is, can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So what you'll see is this is kind of home screen. So this is where we can start seeing what's actually in that FCA register. And what we've done is we've designed it to be a mortgage platform. So you can see on the right hand side, you've got so many that are not a mortgage firm. But what we really want to concentrate on is how many are a mortgage firm. So you can see here how many directly authorised, how many appointed representatives, the total. And then when we talk about new firms that are joining the FCA register, so this is maybe from a sales activity point of view or just knowing the market, you can see here that in the last 7 days, we've had 8 directly authorised firms join the FCA register and 20 appointed representatives. So it's really just giving you that high level overview. But if you wanted to look into a firm, because you might not know them, or you might want to find out more about them, you might only know a little bit, you might be doing some checks. I'm just going to pick a DA firm for now, but you can pick networks. So if I pick the finance room, what you'll see here is I've typed in the finance room, I've clicked on search, and straight away what I can see is they're a directly authorised firm and they're authorised. This is where we then go into the actual firm itself, and it brings all that data into one place for you. So you don't have to go onto websites, you don't have to go onto Companies House, you don't have to go onto the FCA register. Everything is being brought into this one database for you to view. So if we just start on the left-hand side, you can see that the logo's been imported. You've got the name of the firm, if they're known as any other names. You've got their location, so from a BDM activity point of view. You've got their phone number, their website, and you've got their email address, and also you've got their social media links. So it takes you straight to those pages for you, so you haven't got to go and find it yourself. But more importantly, you'll know you're accessing the right data, and you know everybody within your firm are accessing the same data, rather than relying on them finding that information out for themselves. They're using the one location. Then what you have on the right hand side is the multiple data sources. So we start off with the FCA register. If it was a network, you'll see that it would highlight all the appointed representative firms. You've got the individual, so who's actually the main controller, what their involvement levels are, and also what their permissions are as well. And on the right hand side, you'll see that we've brought out the mortgage permissions into the system here. And then we can then start going more granular when we talked about the FCA directory person. So every broker now has to be registered on this register. And they have to do this since April 2021. And you'll see here that I know that within this firm, if I just click on who are actually authorised to give advice, I can see that within here there's 8 brokers. And then say if I wanted to look at equity release, you can have a look at those that could actually give equity release advice as well. So you can see it's giving you the different permissions of those brokers within the firm. So it just really helps me understand that there's not just one broker in there, there's 8 brokers that you could be receiving business from. You can also have a look at Companies House, so it will show you who's active from a director level. You'll have a look at who was inactive, so if anyone you come across and you think, oh, I thought they were still in the firm, you can see here that they're no longer there. You can have a look at who's got control, so their ownership. You can have a look at the filing history. On the right hand side, it will tell you which accounts kind of they're up to date, you know, especially if they haven't submitted their accounts in the last 3 years or so, you know, you might have alarm bells there. And then you can also go into the accounts directly from here if you want to go in and have a look at their accounts themselves. And then we've got charges. So there's any charges on the account here. So it's just really bringing all that data into the one location. So you've got a single source of truth, whether it's used on this platform or whether you utilise some of it, which will be put into the intermediary manager system. I talked about credit safe. This is something we're looking at. So this is where we can have a look at whether it's CCJs, you do credit checks. You can have a look at to see kind of what their solvency is like, you know, what their turnover is. We can go a little bit more into detail about their financials. So we're just working on that in our roadmap for the near future. So that's really what Broker ID is about. It's having that single source of truth within the one location.
Thanks, Mel. I'm just going to share my screen a second. Okay, can you see my screen again?
Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm just going to, I guess, I'm just conscious I've rattled through it quite some pace. Just in case anyone's struggling to picture or put together, yes, just a quick recap. So what we're looking at here is a firm. So this firm is obviously sat at a certain stage. So you can see the case status in this one here. They've gone through the onboarding check, but it will be the movement of this particular record through that workflow that will kickstart any automation that is configured behind each of those stages. So if something's scheduled to happen automatically when a firm moves to that stage of your journey, then it's the movement on the actual profile to that stage that will kickstart that automation. But as we're, I guess, hopefully explaining and demonstrating, it's about building that picture and having everything recorded in one place. So again, we're in DB Financial. We have a record for each of the firms. Again, we just touched on, this is showing us the business development performance, the actual activity performance over the last period. All that information available within Broker ID can be used to complete these tasks. And it's these tasks that can be some of the controls to say whether you actually promote them to live or not, or you don't until those particular checks complete. But certainly using the two systems in tandem means that that information can be seamlessly put into the system and you have to manually collect it as well. So again, details on permissions. So what else? Again, supporting documents. So normally behind a lot of those checks are we support supporting documents. So Experian business reports, insolvency searches, etc. So again, rather than have those stored separately on a SharePoint site, for example, it's good to have everything in that single place. If marketing communications are sent, because this obviously system, as I'll quickly show in a second, you can email from the system, so you can use it to segment the user base and target certain firms and individuals. And at the same point, you can then email from the system. So again, why not store a copy of those emails on the actual profile? Procuration fee statements, again, if those are being made directly out to brokers, why not store a copy of those on the profile? And the great news about it, you don't need to worry about, okay, well, there might be sensitive information you don't want everybody within the organization to see. Each of these panels of information can be configured by user as well. So there is some of the sensitive background checks you don't want to make available to everyone within the organization. You can actually hide it by user. As we talked about earlier on, again, the documents, so you can store HTML templates, Word templates, Excel templates, and because all the information being added into the system, so all this information here on the firm, details on the business development activity, details and dates, all of those firms can be, or those data points can be used as merge fields to really personalize any communication, which gives you that one-click document production for any communications you wish to send to your firms. A little bit further down, again, those diary entries, just a reminder that diaries are the to-dos. A record of those will be kept. So that's really good for KPI and activity management of the BDMs to make sure that they are completing the activity or the amount of activity that you would like, or you expect for each of the intermediaries at the different stages. And then you've got notes, again, depending on who the broker is talking to. It could be a support team, it could be the BDM. You may have gone out to see the firm, want to record details of it. So again, we suggest to segment the notes or categorize the notes. It could be emails in, emails out, phone calls made, phone calls received. It could be again a telephone BDM, field BDM note. Beauty of then segmenting them means that, again, if you just want to see the notes of the support staff or the field-based BDM, you can choose that category and see just that person's notes, which again will be in chronological order as well. The notes can, again, feed activity. So if you were completing an activity, let's say we were the field-based BDM has gone out to see, went to see the wanted help with. This is just an example. Again, it could be something you share back with the broker. It could be some meeting notes you might want to share with them. Because it's a fully cloud-based service, we can provide access to the actual intermediaries as well to see certain information on their file, which I'll show you in a second. But what I'm showing you here is how the note can then feed the next step or the next activity. So you can see off the back of this note, I could then create a diary entry on a certain time and date I can categorize it, so it could be a lead follow-up, it could be an appointment follow-up, it could be anything, because you categorize your to-do types. But you can see here, I can then assign it to somebody else in the organization. So again, when they come in the morning, they will see the that to-do activity waiting for them on their dashboard. Last couple of things I just want to highlight, because I'm conscious of time. But you've seen there, we've captured a lot of information about the firm. It's equally as rich for the individuals, again, from the various different data sources available within Broker ID. So you'll see that on here, I've got a profile for the principal, as I said, for the supervisors, administrators, the insurance broker. And again, you can capture whatever you want to about that individual as well. Probably information you're not likely to capture necessarily within the origination platform. So you can see on here, we've got the traditional sort of name and contact details, but it might be wanting to capture their LinkedIn profile. Again, information you can source from the Broker ID service. But some of the softer facts, now these are some of, I guess, some tongue-in-cheek soft facts that we want to capture. But imagine how powerful, how valuable that would be to a new BDM, just to help with that initial conversation, not just the activity that's happened within the firm, but knowing what's their favorite sport, what's their favorite cuisine, what's their working patterns, what's their video conferencing platform of choice. That sort of information, having that to hand is going to be super important, just to make all this extra data really, really valuable to anyone within the organization, definitely the business development managers, and certainly the marketing team, as I'll show you in a second. Because if we use that example, if we wanted to target all the firms within a certain postcode that we wanted to invite to an event, then again, picking up on the second point, they're not just merged fields, they're also searchable fields as well. So I'm just going to finish up by just showing you the reporting area and how powerful it is, because we can look for individuals, we can look for intermediary firms, we can look for master agencies, networks. So we can look for those different segments as well. Now, if we look for the customer, again, any fields that you add, and this is something where we train you guys to be able to chop and change the fields. So if you wanted to capture as someone attended a particular event, you would just add that as a capture field. As soon as it's added, it's then a reportable field, and as I said, an emerge field as well. But just picking on some of the ones we've looked at today, if we did want to find all the firms that like football, because we possibly wanted to invite them to an event, then what we can do is not just search for them. So here's the people that have met that criteria. Okay. Now, traditionally with CRMs, you probably export that information out to a marketing program to look to contact them with some sort of marketing communication. It could be a product switch communication. Again, it could be details of an event. But what we've added to this particular program is the ability to create search views of the the firms that match the criteria, because as I've just shown you, there's a lot of information on a profile about the individual, about the firm, but it might just, you want some key information. So in the same way where if you're putting the data into Excel, there may be some certain columns of information that you just want to have in front of you to complete a task. It could be a calling campaign, for example. You might be wanting to phone all these people now. So in this case, that search view might be the broker contact sheet, as I've just clicked on here. And in that case, all it's going to pick out is the certain bits of information on the firms that meet my criteria, because I might want to phone them all. But hopefully, more importantly, with this, and this is where, again, the benefit of the inbuilt communication tools, if I wanted to invite all those people that I know like football to a particular football match, I could potentially invite one, two, all of them, for example. And you'll see at the bottom here, I've got the ability to, I could export it to a spreadsheet. So whatever information I wanted on my matching criteria, I could export to a spreadsheet, but why not use the system to do your communications? Again, certainly if you're using the broker ID information, if you want to target people who've got a certain permission and you're not seeing much business from that broker, you may want to target them with a product communication. And there should probably be no easier way to do this than to search for those firms that meet the criteria, choose who you want to communicate to, hit bulk communication, and then in a click of a button, you could have sent them all a pre-configured text, again, personalized, because it will pull the information through from the record, or indeed an email or a letter. And most importantly, a copy of that letter would then be stored on that profile. So as we talked earlier on about building up, certainly for contingency, building up a picture of that client, then again, all that information about your interaction, be it inbound phone calls, outbound communications, all the due diligence checks you completed, and all the hard facts, everything kept in one place. So again, very, very powerful information for the broker, sorry, for the BDMs. And then finally, yeah, so then the final one is reporting on this. So as you can see here, this is great for KPI reporting, as I mentioned earlier on. The ability to look for any individual. Again, you can look back or look forward. So if Rody was off sick, we could see what activities got planned for today. If we wanted to look backwards in terms of what activities completed, we can include completed activities. So that's just making sure we're just keeping an eye, if we wanted to, on the activity performance of each of the staff. And to be honest, that's 11 o'clock. I think we've covered the key areas. Hopefully, you've seen in today's demonstration how that can help with some of those challenges we outlined in the initial presentation. But if there are any further questions, please do get in contact. I'm just going to come back to the PowerPoint. Now, can you see it on the screen?
No.
No, okay. I'll stop sharing and put it back on the page. So, which is then please do not hesitate to get in. Get in contact. So I'm just going to leave my contact details on the page. There we go. Anything further to add, Mel?
No, as I say, we're just showing you kind of a number of products which really helps manage the intermediaries. So, you know, if you want to have more detailed conversations, then just get in touch with David or myself, and we can speak to you individually as well. So this is just really a flavour of how we can support you and what we're doing in the market today. But thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Emma.
Enjoyed that. I
Excellent.
shall be chatting when I get back to the office.
Excellent. Okay, if anybody else has got any questions or anything, or wants to think about our other services that we offer that we mentioned at the beginning, just get in touch with us. Okay, well, thank you all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for attending today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cool. Okay.
Is that everyone, is it?
Yeah, cool. I need to go because I've got a meeting, but I'll call you afterwards.
Okay.
Right. See you in a bit.